Hello there, gamer nerds, friends of all shapes and sizes. Welcome to the Carcassonne UK Championships hosted here on behalf of the Mind Sports Olympiad, as well as our good friends over at Board Game Arena. My name is Chris Polar Fung, and with me is the myth, the legend, the history, the man, history's best blonde gamer, Mr. Steve Raine. How do you feel today, Steve?
I feel good. Yeah, looking forward to some Carcassonne and Meeple playing action. We're just about to join the tournament halfway through. It's quite a long tournament. It started at 11 o'clock this morning. Carcassonne, it's a two-player only tournament, so it's run by Board Game Arena and their software site. We are joining in match 4 out of 7 in the Swiss, and then after that's finished, there's sort of a knockout, which we'll explain in more detail in a second. But we're going to join a game with Andres Kusk. I think they're just about to start here.
And here we go. Diving straight into the action, Varshod, Andres Kusk playing the red pieces, and it seems like we're already getting off to quite a quick start. Varshod, of course, taking the early city, choosing to complete the very first city tile to take 4 points, and very interesting decision by Trompowski to go for roads. Traditionally, in the 3-player or 4-player variant of Carcassonne, roads are considered very not worth your time, and we see a bigger battle with the farms and the cities. Of course, in 2-player, particularly if you don't take points, you give them away to your opponent. So the roads and actually all of the different point scoring systems are a lot more fought over, a lot more contested. The 2-player situation here, you'll see both players start with a castle already. So you'll see both players fight to stop each other from being able to complete things and waste their turns. Really interesting that Tromkowski chose to take that city tile there, because it's going to be difficult to complete, it looks like, or difficult to block.
Yeah, that was the only place you could place this tile and put a meeple on it, I think, without connecting it to Andres's. I don't think he could have placed that anywhere else because you needed
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so it's whether he puts a meeple on it or not. That's the best place for it, and it's whether you put a meeple, because you're right. This tile becomes harder to fill. So whenever you've got a city with a road leading into it, it reduces the number of tiles that can fit there.
Absolutely. Now, Carcassonne is this game is really well known and loved by a lot of people for a reason. It seems like one of the easiest games, to get started into. This tournament, however, is going to be brutal. This 2-player variant means that both players will be incentivized to place moves to stop each other from being able to complete things. You'll notice that Andreas Kus Varshod is actually, I would say, is in a much better position than Trompowski, because he's got points in hand and on the board, and he hasn't needed to invest nearly as many meeples, the little tiny mini people that we see in the top right-hand corner underneath their names. And the meeple economy, having meeples in hands, choosing when to invest them and when not, is certainly going to be one of the finer conversations as we continue to play through this game today.
Yeah, so that's a good move from Trompowski. Weirdly, Andres added this to Trompowski's city. He could have added it to his own, but I guess
he couldn't have.
Could he not?
He couldn't have, could he?
Yes,
excuse me. Yes, he could have. He could have used the grass to extend his own city, but it would have made finishing much harder.
It is, but also because of this space here, because Trompowski had the opportunity to play off this space, they managed to put a road in, and you can see that this makes this space harder to complete now. So I might have just done it just because it stops you getting done in a bit. But the converse is, I suppose he could have then put it here and also slowed it down. So what do I know?
Yes, but your main concept is absolutely bang on the money. Trompowski's last move being an example where you're playing against your opponent. The move it doesn't add any points to Trompowski himself. All it does is it's there to prevent Varshod from being able to score points or complete that city easily. Of course, there are still a number of pieces in the game, and at this level, I would expect. And I've spoken to Andres Kusk before about this. Andres Kusk, having won the Pentamind Championship 4 times previously, he's recognized in the world as one of the strongest board games. He's memorized the tile set. He knows exactly how many tiles there are of each type, and we've just seen him complete a road, taking another easy 4 points.
Trompowski's also got the awkward piece in their city. So what Andres Kusk is now trying to do is he's going to try and make it. He's lucky. I was about to say that's the only piece in the base game that actually fits that gap. There's a few of them in the game, but that's the only one. It's the curved city with the road going that way. So Andres is lucky to do that, and he's also played an early farmer. What's your opinion on early farmers, Chris?
I think that early farmers are, especially in the 3 and 4 player variant, early farmers are really good because everyone's trying to finish cities. But in the two-player variant, it's actually much easier to block or compete for farmers. Now that farmer that Varshad placed down, that's going to be there for the rest of the game. So he's down one meeple forever, and that's actually a big cost considering you only have 7 total to start the game with. So Varshad clearly thinks that meeple is at least going to make up his points. So I believe it's 3 points per completed city for each farmer at the end of the game. But time will tell, and we'll see whether or not Trompowsky decides either to fight for the farmers, to try to outnumber Varshad's farmers by starting farmers on new farms and connecting them in, or simply alternately choosing not to complete cities. Although that proposition seems less likely because in the southern side of the board, we see Trompowsky already starting either two separate cities or one big city. Very interesting here in the north-hand side of the board, we just see Andreas Kusk try to steal. Can you tell me more about this placement on the city tile and how Varshad wants to steal that city? What does that mean?
So the previous turn he played this space, trying to make it difficult for Trompowsky to play a piece here, and it happened to be that Trompowsky had the piece that fit that in hand. So Andres is alternative now, because even if this city doesn't complete, it's worth quite a few points. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's already worth 7 points plus any other additional points in the game. So what Varshad's trying to do now is his city's only worth 1 point, but if they can connect them, they'll both be worth 9 and they'll share it. So what he's trying to do by joining up to that, he's effectively reducing the 7-point lead that Trompowsky got. Obviously, his two choices are to try and stop the city completing or to try and join in on it. He tried the first one, it failed. He's now moving on to option number 2.
At the highest levels here, it's really interesting to think. It's really easy to think of this game as how many points can I score, but at the highest levels, that's not the way that you should be thinking about Carcassonne. That's not the way that these higher level people play it. Instead, they're thinking, how many points can I score per tile, and how can I break up the efficiency of my opponent's moves? So how can I increase the number of tiles needed to be played for my opponent to be able to score points?
So if you are watching at home and you've played it before, you might think this is an odd move, because Trompowsky has an easy road that they could add this piece onto here or here, and this would get them 1 extra point. However, what they're looking to do is to make it difficult for Andres to complete this city. So what they'll be looking to do, by placing it here, they give them an opportunity to place like a sideways road tile here to try and make this difficult to complete. And another thing you're trying to do in a 2-player game is you're trying to keep some of the opponent's meeples on board. If you can ever put the tiles in such a way that completing an object, whether it be a city, road or cathedral, becomes impossible, you lock that meeple on the board. It's going to score the points it's already got, but you won't get any more, and more importantly, you won't get it back. So you can see that Andres has a 20-point lead and a 2 meeple lead as well, which is quite important.
That two meeple lead, I think, is the more telling thing. And what you said earlier about stranding meeples, I think that's exactly right on the money. Indeed, I want to draw our attention to, and the play is moving really quite quickly. Trompowsky has a farmer in the center of the board, and that farmer is directly competing with Varshad's farmer towards the south. Of course, it's possible for those farmers to be played right now because the grassland hasn't linked, but eventually Trompowsky is going to want to connect those farmers so that they can get access to fighting that the red central farmer for ownership of all of the completed cities towards the left, towards the south.
Yeah, so you can see already your ideas. So these two farmers, the 2 blue farmers here, are not connected to this red one. But with a tile here and a tile here or here, they will be, and they'll outnumber the red one.
Just like in primary school, if you've got more people to beat up your friends, then you take all the tuck shop money. Do you have tuck shops over here in the UK? Is that what you call them? Beat up people for their money?
Yeah, I think so. I think we call them tuck shops at school. They didn't really exist, but we knew of them. Yeah, that's what they were called.
Varshad seems, annoyingly to Trompowsky, Varshad seems very immune to these attempts to block him off. You'll see over to the left-hand side of the board, regardless of the curved road placement that Trompowsky was hoping to set up, Varshad beat him to the punch simply by luck of the draw with a tile draw, managed to finish off that castle already. Right now, it's really interesting to note that those 2 castles towards the left-hand side of the board don't have any farmers touching them. So that's an easy 6 points if someone can connect to those farmers. And here we do. Yes.
So Varshad has connected the city up, which is great for them. However, Trompowsky has countered by placing a meeple here, just trying to do the same thing. And if they manage to place a tile here that connects these 2 cities together, it will be 2 versus 1, and Trompowsky will not only take over the city, but kind of strand this meeple here, because this city, realistically, Vashod, if Vashod's not winning it, they're not going to help. They're going to do everything they can to stop them completing it. Because
And
if
it's a
this
lot of
city,
points.
yeah, if this city completes and Trompovsky owns it, I believe that'll swing the game in their favour. So Vashod
Well,
will be stopping the best they can.
of course, uncompleted cities are worth one point per city tile and an extra 1 point per shield. But if you complete the city, it's doubled. So 2 points per city tile and 2 points per shield in there. So there's actually Trompowski right now is rushing to try to finish that. As quickly as he can, and as Steve said, to connect the two together. I wanted to draw attention to the fact that this tournament, this Carcassonne UK Championship, occurs in the context of a really hotly contested Pentamind World Championship this year. I believe that Andres Kusk is currently ranked third in the world in our Pentamind World Championship. But in order to explain that, we should take a step back and talk about the MSO, the wider journey of the MSO, as we see Varshod place a road piece to try to block Trompowski from being able to join in that castle square. The MSO, for those of you who aren't aware, the Mind Sports Olympiad, we are the world's largest and most competitive board gaming tournament. Throughout the month of August, we've been running for a couple of weeks now. Throughout the month of August, we've got 90 odd different tournaments over the month of August, all of which are free to enter, and many of which have prize money up for grabs. Although I don't believe we have any prize money for this Carcassonne event today. It's just for pride. Now, the Pentamind is the meta event inside the MSO, the Mind Sports Olympiad. It is the search for the world's strongest board gamer for that year. We keep track of how you do across all of the entire breadth of the tournament, and we take your 5 best scores from the tournament, which is calculated based on your place and how many other people competed in it, and whoever has the highest score ends up taking home that world championship.
So Andres has tried to challenge the farm. You see the place to farmer here. This city tower wasn't realistically was going to struggle to complete because there weren't many good places for it that were hard to block. All the places that could go were quite easy to block, to be honest. But Andres' place to farm here. They're trying to connect this farmland up, and if they can get a tile on this spot, they'll join up to their other red farmer, which currently has 3 cities for 9 points. And so Blue is trying to take that off them. They've countered.
This current differential of 14 points in Varshod's favor, it's that doesn't tell the entire story. I think as we spoke about before, it's going to come down to farmers. It's going to come down to how each player chooses to block one another. Now, really interesting that all of these these players in the Pentamind Championship will be looking for podium finishes in games like Carcassonne, because they're gonna have large impacts upon their final Pentamind scoring. And Varshod, I don't believe, has any games to give. Can you tell us a little bit more about the tournament structure here? How are players going to advance from the Swiss portion to the playoffs?
So Swiss, basically, if you're not sure what Swiss means, it means as you play the games in the tournament, you get randomly paired against someone doing as well as you are. So if you've won all 3 of your games, you'll play someone else who's won all 3. In this particular case, they've both won 2 and lost 1. So they get paired against each other. And at the end of the Swiss, that means at the end, after 7 matches, there'll be some people on different levels. There'll be someone who's won them all. There'll be someone who might not have won many at all. But basically, from that point onwards, anyone who's only lost 1, i.e. got 6 points or higher, or 5 wins and 2 draws, if that happens, will go into a knockout, like a quarter-final onwards. We're expecting somewhere in the region of 7 or 8 people to make that cut, 7 or 8 people to just lose 1 game over 7 matches, which shows their skill. And then they'll play from a quarter-final to a semi-final to a final, effectively, and we'll hopefully be here to watch the whole of that.
Now, it's I want to point out that Varshod has managed to very luckily draw the very first Abbey of the game. Those Abbeys are generally considered very powerful because they're an easy way to get 9 points very easily to complete them. And there are only 4 Abbeys in the game. Not only that, but Abbeys join up farmlands very easily. So they help farmers compete with one another. We really see... for those of you who haven't, we're kind of assuming that everyone here has played Carcassonne before. We've just seen Trompowski join up that castle. So I think that there's a good potential here. Although there are difficulties in place, I think that there's a good chance that this castle finishes. And if that castle finishes, it's bad news bears for Varshod. So Varshod, I believe, will be looking to throw as many, as you mentioned earlier, as many obstacles in the way of that completing castle as possible.
Currently, I don't think it will finish. I think there's already 4 tiles that have an end city piece and a road gone on. So what I'm talking about is either a tile that looks like this, or a tile that looks like this. There's already 4 of them gone. Now, I'm probably not as good as you, Chris, to know exactly how many tiles are in the game, but not only, if there are enough tiles left to finish it, Trompowski has to draw both of them, and in a way that Andres hasn't blocked it.
Yes.
So I would be reluctant to say. I mean, a tile like this would have fit in as well, potentially. But obviously, Trompowski has to draw it. But what you're looking for technically is the semicircle ones, because the semicircle ones are the ones that not only will fit there, but will close the city off.
Absolutely. So, Steve, what I've just done is I've sent you through a link with the Carcassonne tile list. Perhaps we can show that up for our viewers later on.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
As you mentioned
I'll sort that out
earlier,
for you.
so the reason that we're talking about the tile list so much is certainly at this level, and Andres Kusk has, we've spoken about this point slightly before, at this level, everyone has memorized the tile list. So they know exactly what tiles are possible. As to what Steve was saying before, in order to finish this massive castle in the north-hand side of the board, you need an end tile, an end castle piece with a road that curves either into the city or curves goes straight through it. And as Steve has mentioned, there have been a number of those played already. Now, if Trompowski draws those tiles, he's going to want to finish them. If Varsho draws those tiles, he's not going to place them such that Trompowski profits from them. He'll use them elsewhere, which means that because he needs 2 of these, while it's unlikely for Trompowski to finish this castle, the potential of it happening is fantastic. Now, Steve Raine has just taken the cursor to show off the top right-hand corner. That placement by Varshad is going to make it more difficult for Trompowski to finish the previous castle, that big castle, particularly if Varshad chooses to place another castle piece, which dovetails in. It just increases the requirements.
He has one in hand now, so he could place this here and potentially just stop, reduce this to, I think there's only 1 tile that will fit there, 1 type of tile.
Yes.
Which is that type of tile, but you can see there's already 2 of the 3 have already gone.
No,
so it's that type of tile you need.
It would work. Excuse me.
Yes. So that tile would fit in this gap if Varsha placed the tile they've got there.
Yes, you're right. Yep.
So that might be worth doing, and potentially you could even put a meeple on it as well. And if your opponent draws the tile, they can't even. If you put a meeple on it, they can't even put it down there, because then you'll have 2 each.
I really don't like Trompowski's position at this point, because for those of you who are aware, have a look at underneath Trompowski's name. Trompowski has no meeples. There are no meeple. Trompowski cannot place a meeple until he finishes a meeple. A meeple finishes scoring on the board currently. The 2 farmers are out of the question. They will not come back until the end of the game. That rubber on the road in the center of the board, that can come back. This castle that they've got in the center of the board can come back, and it's actually really rare. I believe that towards the middle of the board, to the left and south of the unfinished blue castle, there's an abbey there without a meeple on it. That's really rare. I believe that was Trompowski, because those abbeys are one of the easiest ways to score 9 points.
If Andres had this, they would have placed it next to this abbey. They would have placed it somewhere like here or here. To try and help this abbey score. So that was definitely Trompowski's. And you could see what happens, what Chris was saying about having a meeple in hand. Andres played this, put a meeple on this part of the road, finished it straight away, got the meeple straight back. So I think it's a mistake not to have 1 meeple. Basically, the 1 meeple is allowing you to place a tile, put the meeple on, get the meeple straight back off and score some points for it. And if you don't have that, you're in trouble.
I wouldn't say it's an out-and-out mistake, because there are certainly board textures where you're going to want to place your last meeple, but it's a significant cost, and we're going to see Andres Kusk enjoy that cost on Trompowski's behalf by doing things like this, like in the top right-hand corner, fighting for castles. If you don't have meeples in hand, there's no possible way for you to increase the contestation to fight over these large castles. If Varshad is really now looking for Andres Kusk, he's really looking forward to connecting that castle piece, of which I believe there are only 1. There are 2 played currently. These 2 so it's a 3-sided castle tile with a road coming out of it. That's what we need. There are 2 currently played on the board, and in the game, let me see how many there are.
There are 3, Chris.
There are 3.
Yeah, so there's 1
total.
left.
Yes, there's 1 left. If Varshad draws that one, which is a 50-50 chance at this point, then bad news bears for Trompowski, because really that is where Trompowski has an advantage that Varshad doesn't, right? Elsewhere on the board, Varshot has these abbeys which are going to score largely. It's very easy for them to get those 9 points. And the only other place where Trompowsky has points that Varshot doesn't are the roads. This road along the left, this nearly completed abbey, which kind of offsets Varshot's abbey, and this incomplete castle over the left-hand side. That is that's to my mind, it's not going to cut it for 15 points as a difference. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, well, I think it's very important for Trompowsky to get this meeple back, one of these two meeples back. So you can see there they had another abbey that they couldn't put a meeple on.
Brutal.
So that's harsh.
Brutal. Easy 9 points.
Yeah, or at least an abbey often an abbey will get you at least 5, if not 6, by just placing it straight away, even if you don't finish it. And one tile for 6 points is pretty good, considering you play something like 40 tiles in the game, and the winning score will be around the 80 mark, depending on how big the cities are.
A breath of life for Trompowsky as he manages, or she, or they manage to complete that abbey. Very important. Now they've got a meeple in hand. Now, if you look at Varshot's last place move, the left-hand corner of the board, completing that city, that's something that Trompowsky couldn't do. Varshot literally hit and run. He had a meeple in hand, placed it on that castle, finished the castle, took the 4 points. The fact that Varshot could do that and Trompowsky couldn't for a long period of time, that's huge. It's massive.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. So Varshot's got a road here. I think I like this placement here, potentially, just trying to complete this cathedral. I'm not sure there's a road. I'm not sure the road will block anything that Trompowsky's got that you can get to be honest, at the moment in time.
I think, yes, I agree with you.
I think I'd place it here.
Yeah, that's certainly a good place to place. Another reason for that is to think about the grasslands, to see if that can extend your access to farms, to link up your farms. But I think that those two farmers that Varshot has in the southern side of the board are happily linked and currently offsetting the two farmers that Trompowsky has. So they'll share points there.
Yeah, I think if you're sharing the farm, I don't think there's any point in extending it. The other possibility he's thinking of potentially is a way to steal it. So can he put this road anywhere and put a farmer on it so that he can come and take this farm off? Now, in terms of the way this is scoring, this farm is only scoring 9 at the moment, these 3 cities. And potentially this is probably a likely 4th. There's still 17 tiles left. So you'd like to think this might be 4, maybe even 5. So this farm's going to score about 15 points. So it's definitely worth stealing if you can. So I think Varshot is... is he going to put a farmer on it on the bottom side? Yes, so he's decided. And if he gets, there's one more cathedral to come, which can go in here, which will not only score you quite a lot of points because it's a cathedral, it will also link the farm up. So maybe he's playing for that.
Something that I want to draw attention to as well. Trompowsky's last move, not this one, but the one beforehand with the end road piece, that's a dual-purpose move. Not only did it complete the abbey, but it also gives the robber on that road an end piece. So all he needs to do is find another road end piece, and he gets another meeple back, which is really important because Trompowsky, I don't know if he can, he's decided to invest his very last meeple into contesting the farmlands again in the most recent tile that he's placed. And that they're left. I keep calling Trompowsky he, which is like my assumption really, but that's a bad assumption to make. Trompowsky is now in this position where they have no meeples in hand again. A terrible position to be in.
Yeah, it's not horrendously bad because both times they've been 1 tile away from getting a meeple back. So they've got 2 meeples they can get back with just 1 tile. So if they complete this city or they complete this road, they get 1 meeple back. So although it's not ideal, because basically they pick up something like this, which would have been a free 2 points if you had a meeple in hand. In this particular case, they've got a meeple back. They weren't far away from getting a meeple back.
Living and dying by the sword. Trompowsky is certainly living on the fine line of what is allowable. Certainly, in games like Carcassonne, I tend to be a little bit more conservative, and that's something that you'll learn from yourself as you play more of these high-level games. What is your personality? How much do you like risk? How much do you like to not have resources in hand? And exactly there, Trompowsky taking great use of the meeple in hand, scoring 6 points immediately. I'm
going to come down and say it. I think Andres, to win, he needs to either draw the cathedral that goes here or the city piece that goes here, because I think currently it's 39 each. And if you stopped now, Trompowsky would win. And Trompowsky is closer to joining his farmland up, his or her, because they just need a tile here or here to join this meeple up to the farm, whereas Andres is a bit further away. So I think for Andres to win, he needs to draw specifically the tile that goes in that gap, and there's only 1 left in the game. Yep. Or specifically the tile that goes in that gap, and there's only 1 left in the game. There are only 9 tiles left.
It's been a ferocious fight back by Trumpowski. They're even on the board in terms of score. But as Steve points out, there are and that's huge for Trumpowski getting that robber back.
Yeah,
scoring those points.
They also get a farm here for 6 points.
Yes.
So I think Trumpowski's taking the lead, and I think for Andres to win, he has to draw one of those two tiles I mentioned. The tile that fits in here or the tile that fits in here. And even that might not be enough.
You might be wondering why Steve and I are thinking about the end game already, and that's because the Carcassonne two-player variant is fast. I believe that we are nearing the end of the end of all tiles placed already.
There's 7 tiles left, yeah.
Okay,
7 tiles left.
So
also, Andres has only got a minute left as well.
That's really important to know. So in the time constraints, Steve, can you tell us a bit more? What happens when a player hits 0?
So it depends. So normally in a match when you're playing in live, you would lose. Depending on the format of the game or something like that, or what the rules are for the game, you would lose. On Board Game Arena, they do it slightly weirdly. If you've run out of time, they allow you to continue playing, but once you've run out of time, if you take more than 20 seconds on a move, I believe your opponent, the button pops up that allows you to kind of force your opponent to forfeit the game. So once you go into your time, as long as you play fast, I think you're still okay. But if you take one move too long, your opponent has the right to think to end the game. If you both go into time, or once the match has a certain allocated time, like 45 minutes, I think. If the 45-minute mark ends and you're both into the negative time, it's whoever's furthest into the negative time loses.
I want to draw attention to a really interesting decision point that Trumpowski just had. Trumpowski's last move, and I really echo your point. Look at the time difference: 18.5 minutes for Trumpowski, 30 seconds for Andres Kusk. Trumpowski, you've done a great job pushing Andres all the way to the edge. But yeah, so the tile placed by Trumpowski before this one was the Abbey in the bottom right-hand corner, which Trumpowski chose not to use their last meeple on, instead choosing to use it here on this farmer to try to muscle out Varshod for the central farmers. Wow, massive! Andres Kusk has managed to split the points in the top right hand corner, so now they're even in that castle.
And he's drawn the other tile he needed. It's not going to matter because he's not going to win the farm, and that's a free 9 points. That is. He drew both tiles he needed, but I still think he's going to lose because I think he's lost this bottom farm now.
He's lost the farmers because he's only got 3 farmers in the southern hemisphere. It's not really a hemisphere, in the southern part of the map, and Trumpowski has 4 farmers. 4 farmers beat 3, and now that's the final. We're entering the final countdown, and there we go.
It was that last farm. I don't know if you saw the final situation. Yes. But that last farm, you can see, was worth 27 points, and he went all to Trumpowski. The difference in scores was only 20. So if Andres could have tied that, he would have won. I'm afraid, as it is, he failed by what turns out to be like 7 points or so.
That massive farmland in the south. Let's actually count the castles here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I see 9 completed castles there.
Yeah. Which is that's right.
That's 27 points. That's literally the game. So that final decision point by Trumpowski to forego taking the Abbey in the south and instead using that meeple to place on the farmer to steal at the very last second Varshod's access to all these farms proved to be decisive. I thought that was a really great illustration by Trumpowski of the power of farms, but my gosh, it was a little bit. I was worried there for a long time.